Hey, I'm Mike with woodshopmike.com, and today I'm going to show you how to build this farmhouse entryway bench with simple pocket hole construction. Now, this is a quick weekend project, so let's get to the build. I begin by breaking down my rough sawn lumber and doing some initial planing. With my glue edges smooth, I glue up the bench top, legs, and stretchers. Now I set up my table saw and cut all the components to their final widths. At this point, I set my table saw to 12 degrees and cut the sides of the short apron and side stretchers. Over at the miter saw, I cut the bench top, short aprons, and side stretchers to their final lengths. Now I set my miter saw to 12 degrees. I set up to cut the legs, center stretcher, and long aprons to their final lengths. Using a biscuit joiner, I cut slots in the long aprons for Z-clips to secure the bench top to the base. Now it's time to drill for pocket holes. Following my plans, I set up for drilling the required parts. Here I'm using the guide from my Kreg Jig K5 to drill the pocket holes. Obviously you see that the guide has been taken out of the jig, which I had to do because of the angles on the end of these pieces. At the drill press, I'm drilling 1 1/16 inch diameter holes using a Forstner bit to hold the 3/4 inch black iron pipe. These holes are drilled into the center stretcher and short apron pieces. When I begin sanding, I first mark the surfaces with a pencil as a reference to let me know when I'm ready to move on with the next grit of sandpaper. For this project, I sanded up to 220 grit. To assemble the left and right legs, I place a small piece of 1/4 inch plywood down and set the short apron on top of that. This creates the 1/4 inch inset I want on the bench legs. And, with the parts clamped together, I use pocket hole screws to complete the assembly. Now I check and double check that the side stretchers are centered. Then, using a bar clamp, I apply just enough pressure to hold everything in place while I drive in the first 2 screws. At this point, it's time to add the pipe. As you see, I start with the pipe located in the center stretcher and then rotate the leg assembly into place. Using a 1/4 inch piece of plywood, I offset the leg and stretchers before securing the pieces with pocket hole screws. Since this space is too small for a drill, I use my baby impact driver and a 1/4 inch socket to secure the screws. Again, I use some 1/4 inch plywood to offset the legs. Now, with the long aprons installed, the base is complete. I flip the bench top upside down and center the base on it. Then, using Z-clips and the provided screws, I secure the bench top to the base. To finish the bench, we went with Varathane's weathered wood accelerator, and this produces a nice gray tone. So, as the name implies, it kind of makes it look like the wood's been sitting outside for a few years. After the bench is dried completely, you'll notice that the grain is raised up a bit, and that's not going to be nice and smooth. So, I go back with 400 grit sandpaper and knock down the raised grain. For the final finish, I went with Osmo oil to provide a nice satin luster that's silky smooth. Once I've applied the product to the entire bench, I go back and wipe off any excess. And then once the finish is fully cured, I'll go back and buff it. Alright, well that's going to wrap us up for the day. I hope you enjoyed the project, and a special thank you goes to Craig Jig for sponsoring this build. Ah, you're still there. Awesome. Hey, if you enjoyed this video, I got another one queued up for you right here. And if you want other awesome content from me, check out those. Anyways, hope you enjoyed the video. Please hit the like and subscribe, and until next time, have fun making something.